Hey sports fans, this is day 2 of our Winter Olympics trip, and it's starting with a train ride from Milano Central Station. We're on our way to Livigno to watch one of the mountain competitions, the Moguls women's medal event. So excited to see a medal competition. Bit of a rush this morning to get on the train, but we're on it, and we're on our way. It's going to be quite a long journey, so we're just going to settle in and relax and see how long it takes us to get there. So let's go.
The Milano Cortina Games have the distinction of being the most geographically spread out in the history of the Olympics. I had accommodation set in Milan for the duration of this trip. By the way, don't forget to check out the first video in our series chronicling our first day in Milan. I'll link to it in the description below. But I also really wanted to set one day aside for a day trip to the mountains. That would mean embarking on a real transportation challenge just to get to one of the closer mountain sites, and only time would tell whether this was a foolish decision or not. If you're new to this channel, my name is Ed, and I chronicle all my sports travels on my website, Itinerant Fan. It has guides to all the stadiums in the major American sports leagues, plus some college stadiums and even major venues around the world. Check it out sometime if you're into traveling for sports. My trip to the 2026 Winter Olympics revolved around the city of Milan, and most of the events I attended were located here. But for one day, we would head to the ski resort town of Livigno to take in the Olympic experience in the Italian Alps. It sounded like a wonderful plan in theory, but of course the challenge was getting there. The train would only get you so far into the mountains, and from there we'd have to rely on a free Olympic shuttle to get to Livigno. The estimate given on the official Olympic website was 4 hours, which sounded tolerable enough, but there was only one way to find out how efficient it truly was. The day began at Milan's Centrale train station, where we hopped onto a regional train known as Trenord. A one-way ticket to ride the length of the line cost $12.50 for an adult ticket, which is perfectly reasonable. We boarded the train with about 5 minutes to spare and settled in for the 2.5-hour ride to Tirano, which would only get us part of the way to our ultimate destination. Before long, we were headed out of Milan and toward the Alps, and I must admit that despite the cloudy day, the scenery got better and better as we went along. About an hour into the ride, we spotted Lago di Como, aka Lake Como, a very popular tourist destination here in northern Italy. And we could tell we were getting closer and closer to the snow line. The scenery was the main thing making this ride tolerable, but we eventually pulled into the station in Tirano, and it was time for the next part of our journey. I thought this part of the trip was very well done by Olympic organizers. Signage was great and was easy to figure out where to go, especially because buses operated to multiple venues in multiple towns, and it would have been easy to board the wrong shuttle and wind up in the wrong place otherwise. But about 15 minutes after disembarking the train, we were on our way to Livigno.
Alright, well that first ride took 2 hours and 39 minutes by train. You know, about what I expected. So now we're on a bus, and this ride is supposed to take a little over an hour, but it gets to our final destination of Livigno.
The distance we needed to cover by bus was a little more than 70 kilometers, and then factor in that we were traversing some windy mountain roads, and an hour and a half seemed like a fair estimate. The roads were indeed as windy as advertised, but the good news is the scenery kept getting better as we were fully in mountain territory at this point. We also passed by the town of Bormio, another Olympic venue site with alpine skiing and ski mountaineering being staged here. You can see the ski course in the distance. After more than an hour on the bus, the town of Livigno finally began to materialize in front of us. What a beautiful town this is, and I can see why it's a premier destination for skiers and snowboarders. And there's our final destination, the Livigno Aerials and Moguls Park. But there was one more step. The shuttle dropped us off at the bus depot in the center of town, after which we needed to board one more shuttle to the Aerials and Moguls Park more than a mile away. The other Olympic venue in town, the Livigno Snow Park where snowboarding events were taking place, was a reasonable walk away from the bus depot and tantalizingly close to where we were standing. But alas, we need to wait for this final shuttle to get to where we were going. And that's where maybe this journey finally got a little frustrating. Despite being assured that shuttles would come every 10 to 15 minutes, we wound up waiting more than half an hour before finally boarding a bus to cover the final mile.
Okay, so we left Milan at 8:50. It is now 2:15, right about the time the competition starts, and we just got into the venue. So it took over 5 hours to get here. You could debate whether that's worth it or not. I haven't made up my mind yet, to be honest. We'll see how we enjoy the competition.
When the Olympics aren't going on, the ski resort is known as Carosello 3000. But for these games, it's the Livigno Aerials and Moguls Park, and we're here to watch the Women's Moguls Final, a medal event. Some rounds of qualifying took place earlier in the day, and we could have watched that with our ticket if we had wanted, but that would have required staying in Livigno the night before, or alternatively, leaving Milan at 5 a.m. Entering the spectator area, we got our first glimpse of the Moguls course, and my first impression was, TV does not do justice to how high up the starting point is and how much ground the competitors cover. And they do it all in about 25 seconds per run. Quite impressive. Of course, the die-hard fans were occupying the areas with the best views, and I loved watching their enthusiasm. Like this group of American fans holding up red, white, and blue J's for medal hopeful Jalen Koff. My daughter and I were content with hanging out near the back, as we still had a pretty good view of the slope, as well as the video board that kept track of the standings. And if you still couldn't figure out what was going on after that, there were helpful announcers commentating on the action in both English and Italian, backed by some vibey music that seemed perfectly appropriate for an event like Moguls. Here's a little sample of their commentary.
La sua discesa, l'interpretazione della linea in mezzo ai Mogul. E adesso lascio a Martin commentare il secondo salto.
Second jump is a cork 7 safety grab, puts it down, done and dusted, and over the line. What a great show, what a great...
At this stage of the competition, there were 8 finalists, and they each made 2 runs down the slope, with their combined scores tallied up at the end to determine who took home medals. While I can't say I knew that much about the competitors going in, it was fun getting a crash course in who the top contenders were, as well as simply marveling at their talents as they made their runs. Oh, and I couldn't help but think, man, this must be tough on the knees. I was well versed enough at the end to understand the most climactic moment of the competition, when Australia's Jacara Anthony, in gold medal position as she made the final run of the day, veered off course.
Tony! Incredibile!
Unbelievable! Unbelievable!
Stunningly, this dropped the defending gold medalist in this event out of medal contention and ensured a 1-2 finish for the USA, with Liz Lemley taking gold and Jalen Koff earning the silver. So it was certainly worth it to see such a dramatic finish to an event. Was it worth 5 to 6 hours of travel each way to do so? Well, I'll let you be the judge of that. But let's say in the moment, I was happy to have been there.
Toro e campionessa olimpica per gli Stati Uniti d'America, Elizabeth Lemley!
I was also happy to hear that a few days later, Jacara Anthony got her redemption, winning gold in the dual Moguls event. As an added bonus to our visit, we got ourselves a picture with Tina, one of the mascots of these Olympics. She's a stoat, in case you were wondering. With the event over, we made our way back to the center of town to explore a little bit of the Olympic Plaza setup. This town is really a charming one to walk through, and you can tell they've really gotten into the Olympic spirit. The fan zone itself was your typical collection of sponsor activations and photo ops, but you can't really beat this setting, and there was live music to boot. We were also pretty lucky in that the sun was out for most of the afternoon, making it not nearly as cold as it could have been, even though we were prepared for rough conditions with scarves, beanies, hand warmers, and the like. But I also felt it would be a good idea to get going before sundown, so we enjoyed the Olympic fan zone for about half an hour before boarding a bus to make the long trek back to Milan. I enjoyed one last look at the alpine scenery before the sun began to set and we settled in for the journey. I'm gonna admit, at this point my daughter and I were both beat, and we dozed off both on the bus ride and the ensuing train ride that got us back to Milan, so I didn't do much filming of this part. And both bus and train were much more crowded going back, and we actually ran into traffic at the tail end of this bus ride heading into Tirano. In the end, it was another 5.5 hours of travel, and we finally pulled into Milan Central at 10:10 p.m., more than 13 hours after our journey first began. What a day. I hope this was an insightful look into some of the travel challenges involved in being a spectator at the 2026 Winter Olympics. If you are also at the Milano Cortina Games, or if you're interested in attending a future Olympics, then let me know. Leave a like or a comment below and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel because we'll be making a lot more stadium and travel videos like this one. And if you're looking for more info on other major cities or sports venues, head to itinerantfan.com. Thanks for watching and happy travels!